Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November meeting of the Public Works Committee. I'd like to call us to order. And due to the pandemic, all committee members are participating virtually. For virtual meetings, committee members will be muted until asked to be heard. When there is a vote, a roll call vote will be conducted. A committee member will be recognized, raise their hand, and state their vote. Committee members are Councilmember Barbara Haynes Burke, Vice Chair, Councilmember John Larson, Councilmember Annette Scipio, and myself, Jeff McIntosh, Chair. As usual, we have both consent and general agenda items to consider tonight. I would first ask if anyone on the committee or council members have any consent agenda items they would like to have pulled for discussion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to see C4 explain what that's about.
C4. If no one else, I would entertain a motion to approve the balance.
So moved.
Second.
City Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Scipio?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh?
Aye. Okay, and I see Robert Presswood's name attached to item C4. If we could get a reading on this, or if, I don't know, if King wanted to start this off.
Thank you, Chairman McIntosh, council members. I know Robert's name was on it, but I've also got Todd Lewis here from Utilities, and I think Todd is prepared to offer some comments and give a little bit of insight into what this item relates to. So Todd, if you're ready, go ahead and feel free to unmute and go ahead and begin.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, just to give you an update on the purpose of this item, we were approached by Wake Forest to convey the sewer system located in the central part of the campus over to them. This was a common request. Actually, we have a portion of the water system that was conveyed to them in the last couple of years. And one of the primary reasons that they make a request like this, it gives them more ability during their building programs to relocate the utilities and just have a little more control over the system within the campus.
So if I may follow up, are these public streets that we're on, or is this all private property of Wake Forest? And basically, this is like we were like running your sewer system from your house out to the public street. So is that what's going on here?
This is located within the campus, so it's not a public street. They are sewer mains. They're typically 8 inches in size, like a typical sewer main. The sewer that is being conveyed was built in the 1960s. And over time, of course, the university has built a lot of stuff close to where that sewer is. And actually, there's a portion on the upstream side over on Polo that serves about 8 properties. So there's a portion on the north edge of the campus that still is going to be considered public, but the part within the campus will be conveyed to the university.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. I think that's.
Sure. Any other questions from committee or council? So Todd, would I be correct in its sort of summarizing this as this is public infrastructure that is currently running through private property, and we are just reversing that? We are turning it into private infrastructure to run across private property.
That's correct.
Great.
Yeah, that's right.
Mr. Larson, care to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. If we have the clerk call the roll, please.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Scipio?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh?
Aye. Okay, that brings us to general agenda item G1.
Item G1, bond capital projects update.
I believe Mr. Tesh is going to lead us through this, or is it Mr. Rao?
Chairman McIntosh will be Mr. Tisch.
Great. Mr. Tesh, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman and members of the committee and council. I have a presentation. I want to apologize that it was not in the agenda system. It was at one point, and then I think we made some edits. It does not have any information that was not available in the report, but I am going to share this and to go through the report relatively quickly. So, alrighty. I hope that you're seeing the full screen there. So this is a bond projects capital update. The types of projects that are included in this report are general government bond funded projects. So those include general obligation bonds that were authorized via referendum and vote by the residents of the city. Our 2/3 GO bonds, which are general obligation bonds where we're allowed every other year to issue without going out for vote in much smaller amounts. They're generally used for infrastructure maintenance. And our limited obligation bonds, which are a type of debt that has a different securitization. It's not a GO bond, and it doesn't have to be voted on by the public. This report did not include things that were in our enterprise operations like the water and sewer system or stormwater management system. So really focused on capital projects that are general government related and related to what you would call general fund in our public assembly facilities and things of that nature. So in terms of total amounts allocated here, the chart shows the 2014 GO bond projects, 2018 GO bond projects, our limited obligation bonds, as well as 2/3. I will note very quickly, these numbers are not the same as the referenda. These include total project costs. In a couple of cases, we have expanded the scope of a project and included other revenue sources. So that won't add up to the original number that you saw in 2014 for that reason. But this includes all of those general obligations and law funded projects. As you can see, an overwhelming majority of those were from voter authorized referenda, being in the 2014 and 2018 cycles. And as I noted, the amounts that are used for 2/3, usually for facility renewal and infrastructure maintenance, things like streets maintenance and repairs. Total for all of those projects, a little over $400 million. Looking at them by ward, the largest portion of this falls into multi-ward. We'll say that street resurfacing falls into that area, as well as many of our housing projects, economic development projects, specific recreation and culture projects, looking at spray ground improvements and things of that nature across multiple wards, as well as some of our, again, infrastructure maintenance and repair major projects that cross ward lines. Looking at this pie chart, I would note that the North Ward and the East Ward seem to have gotten a much larger slice of the pie. We'll note in the North Ward that there are two larger projects specifically driving that number up. One is the Convention Center renovation, and then the other is the renovation of the Burke Public Safety Center, those totaling nearly $30 million. Same thing in the East Ward, two large projects there as well, one being Union Station and the other Bowman Gray Stadium, again, totaling nearly $30 million of that as well. So in terms of distribution, those two may have looked significantly larger, but there are two very large projects in each one of those wards driving those numbers. Project spending and status. So 50% of the projects across all of these categories have been considered completed, 37% in progress. You see that little green slice there being appropriated. So there are monies the projects have been committed to specific types of projects, but not to the actual project themselves, or that the project hasn't started in earnest. Looking there at the spend rates for the individual projects, again, for those authorized out of 2014 GO bonds, 87% spend rate. That includes encumbrances, so anything that's still on a PO. For 2018, a little less than 50%. For the LOBs LOBs projects, for which we've issued that kind of debt, 90% of that has been spent or encumbered. The 2/3 number, again, we issue 2/3 bonds every other year, and so you're never going to get to 100% spend rate there as we continue to issue that on an ongoing basis. But 67%, or roughly 2/3 of what we've done there over the 7-year period. So looking across the projects that have been completed for which MWBE goals were constructed, we see here what this chart shows you is that for those projects, roughly 17.33%, the original goal for MWBE participation. The actual contract goal, so what we wrote into the contract at 20%, and those actually finished actual performance on average just over 23%. So our actual performance with MWBEs across those closed projects is higher, both than the original goal setting as well as what was required in the contract. And as you see there, more than $20 million to date spent with MWBEs, and we will have a significant number of projects continuing to close in the future, which will drive that number up. Do want to stop here and say, in terms of information and availability, the city does maintain a bond tracker specifically for the 2014 and 2018 GeoBond funded projects. It is out on the city's website. There's a link to it here on the PowerPoint, which is available in the materials publicly. That thing in the middle is just a screenshot. When you sign into it or click into it, you can filter by ward, you can filter by bond issuance, being 2014 or 18, and you can filter by type, so recreation projects or transportation projects, general government projects, or the like. When you select a specific project, it will bring up a description of that project, what the budget was, current spending, and if we have MWBE participation, as well as the project phase. We will be looking to continue to add pictures to this website as well, but just a note to the public that a lot of this information is available through this bond tracker application that the city has. That ends the presentation. As I said, it was short and sweet. Would be more than happy to answer any questions related to the report itself. The report has all of this summary information and then is actually broken down by ward, so it shows all of the projects and their individual statuses for each ward, as well as a list of all of the 2014 and 2018 bond-funded resurfacing street segments in each ward, and selected pictures for certain completed projects throughout all of the wards. So more than happy to answer any questions we have. I will stop the screen share at this point and turn it back over to you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Tesh. Do I have any questions, comments from the committee or from council?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Larson.
Yes. 2 years ago or so, we allocated a certain amount of money for street repairs. And it was divided into two segments for payment, a work program of 2 years. And I believe we're well into our second year now. And I'm wondering what the forecast is currently. Maybe City Manager can talk about the prognosis for future street paving and repair. I believe some money came up in council yesterday in finance, 2-point-something million for asphalt contracts, which may cover previously arranged work from the work that we were doing in the previous approved schedule. But we know there's a lot of street needs, and hopefully some of this infrastructure money that the feds have approved will be available to us, but that may be a while coming. And have we re-looked at our priority list as far as neighborhoods go and street paving priorities? Have we established new priority list and look toward cost on implementing street repairs next phase?
Good evening, Chair McIntosh and members of City Council. The item that was on finance yesterday was not a resurfacing contract. That's our annual contract where we purchase asphalt for doing patching and repaving ourselves. We do have another bond contract already underway for resurfacing. What we'll do is we'll bring a report back to this committee of where we are with all those streets and see if council individually wants to make any adjustments. We're glad to do that.
Do we see more money coming?
I think Councilmember, yes, the devil's going to be in the details of the infrastructure bill, but yes, we do see more money coming. It's going to take a little while for us to know exactly how that money is going to come to us. Is it going to come direct apportionment versus competitive grants? But we do see more money coming for lots of our infrastructure needs.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Other questions and comments? I would like to thank Mr. Tash, as usual. Your reports are very dense, very full of information, as a compliment. I appreciate the layout there. One thing I would like to ask, and maybe I should ask this of the city manager, is if we can publish some pretty pictures to let the public know what we have done with their money. I've had several requests from people on the Bond Oversight Committee for us to do a little song and dance, a little dog and pony show to show where their money has gone and the accomplishments that have been made with it. Because I think Scott's report was, really incredibly informational, but a little short on graphics. And if we want to let the public know where we're spending the money, pictures go a long way. So if we can arrange something like that, I'm sure Mr. McNeil has nothing else to do with his time. He's happy to have another project come his way. Apologize in advance for me on that. But thank you, Scott. That was great. Excellent report. We really appreciate you keeping up with this. And I want to also thank the Bond Oversight Committee, because they've been working hard at this, and this is a long process. And if we have more money coming our way, I imagine that committee would stay constituted and be involved in some of the oversight there. But I guess that we can figure that out as we go along. Okay, so if there are no other comments or questions, that brings us to the final item in our long agenda tonight. And so I would thank you all for attending, and I look forward to seeing you next Monday night, if not before then. So meeting adjourned. Thank you.